Bloomberg's May 2023 report on a Chinese American stealing trade secrets from Coca-Cola on this Coke can formula. Is this Chinese industrial espionage? So what's the story? A Chinese American chemist, Shannon, worked at Coca-Cola. She liaised with Coke can suppliers, got to be one of 2 employees from Coca-Cola to access the secret bpa-ni coating formula, worth about $120 million. But when Shannon was laid off in 2017, she took proprietary information from her work laptop and she applied to China's 1,000 Talents program, where she stated her technical know-how in this proprietary technology that would further develop China's economy. This 1,000 Talents program encourages overseas Chinese to go back to their home country to set up businesses in China that some US officials say encourages spying for economic purposes like stealing intellectual property from US companies. And in 2018, Shannon won $710,000 worth of grants from China, including from the 1,000 Talents program. But Shannon, wisely or foolishly, wasn't willing to hand over secret information without getting money in her bank account first. She probably didn't realize what it was like working in China after leaving the country for so long. In short, the FBI arrested Shannon, and in 2022, she was sentenced to 14 years in federal prison on wire fraud charges and IP theft. Why is this story so interesting? First of all, what Shannon did is not your typical Asian American model minority story or behavior. Yes, Shannon, like many others, rose the ranks in America through academics, through working in corporate America, contributing to society as a brilliant chemist, and becoming a naturalized US citizen. Very similar to my dad's first-generation immigrant story. And this is why I appreciate Bloomberg's detailed reporting. And I highly encourage you to read the long piece because it describes Shannon's behavior at work. That was questionable, that was borderline unethical regardless of her ethnicity. And it's sad how this headline could put a stigma on first-generation model minorities like my dad, who worked in corporate America for 40 years. Already struggled from the language and cultural barriers in America. Because the thing is, most Asian immigrants don't have anything to fall back on. My dad needed to survive in his job, put his head down, do the work as best as he could because there was no going back for him in Taiwan. In Shannon's case, suppliers and colleagues described her as being pushy for information beyond her role, for wanting to have a custom NDA to her name to get proprietary information because she actually had an ulterior motive. She actually had something she felt she could fall back on in China. That's why this China's 1,000 Talents program is so interesting, because it wants to attract overseas talent and give them the opportunity to actually go back to China to develop China's economy. Is China spying on the US like this Bloomberg article insinuates? And is this 1,000 Talents program something we should be concerned of in America? I would say first yes, and then no. Definitely spying is happening between US and China. It's been clear since the start of 2023 when that Chinese spy balloon flew across the heart of America and the US shot it down. Also with the US congressional hearings on TikTok, some started calling spyware. Now this 1,000 Talents program, some call industrial and economic espionage. But the balloon, TikTok, and this program, in and of itself, there's nothing wrong with the device, the application, the surveillance infrastructure that is set up by both US and China. The key problem is where US and China relations are going right now. Things are intense between the two countries, especially since the US and China top officials decided not to meet after the Chinese spy balloon for a very long time. And the fact that Bloomberg, a media outlet that I consider pretty central, neutral on US and China because it has global business interests, has pretty much almost chosen a side by, saying that US is being spied on by China, not the other way around. It's very telling where US and China relations are going. It's like Bloomberg is cutting ties and even business interests in China to side with the US. And more companies and people might have to start doing that. And this 1,000 Talents program, is this really the problem that Americans need to be worried about? I really don't think so. I believe that this problem was and will be a flop, because look at what happened to Shannon. Yes, Bloomberg probably wants this story about Shannon to be a warning to all Chinese Americans. It would be like, think twice if you want to apply to China's 1,000 Talents program. And honestly, I don't even know if this 1,000 Talents program is still happening in China because of people like Shannon who rose the ranks in America through meritocracy. And then for them to try to do business in the way things are done in China, the wild, wild East, it's just not going to work out. And then really people like Shannon won't do well doing business in China. And it's just so sad that she blew it both in the US and in China. And if we want to talk about economic and industrial espionage, which I believe is happening, I don't think it will be China taking their own people overseas and bringing back information to China. I think it's happening when foreign businesses set up factories and operations in China, like Tesla and Apple. Because especially during zero COVID, China has set up a surveillance infrastructure that is like Big Brother on its own people, and also any business that is there to get information if they want it. And this might even be a reason why foreign companies are pulling out and taking investments out of China. And that is where I think there needs to be more reporting on, not creating more fear towards Chinese-looking people in America. So what does this mean for Chinese Americans, Chinese-looking Americans, Chinese workers in America? Two things. There's going to be problems in dual allegiance and racism. If tensions between US and China continue in this bad path, it'll be a business or a personal interest in China. It'll be like a situation where the Chinese government won't really be nice about it. Like, oh, I'll pay you money to give me information. It'll be like, oh, I have leverage on you with a house, a business, a family member in China. So give me the information that I want. And it's like you have to follow their rules and give them what they want. That's the scary thing of where things might be going. I actually feel really bad for the Chinese workers in America and Chinese Americans, because I don't really think any of them would actually join this 1,000 Talents program if it's even still happening. Because if you're following the news on the Wall Street Journal, so many Chinese, rich and poor, are fleeing China right now with what's happening. Things aren't going well there, and they'd much rather be in the US where there would be racism. In fact, I have a friend who's Chinese, who's been working in America for the last 10 years, who just got laid off, and she's doing everything she can to keep her visa before she has to go back to China. So with this type of stuff going on, will companies start laying off Chinese people? Or should we still try to keep the best talent we can in this country and start creating safeguards with HR to make sure things like this don't happen, regardless of race or ethnicity? Because you could also get the Russians spying or, anyone else. And to be honest, I think the Shannon who did what she did in 2017 wouldn't be doing that today. She did it when US and China were in completely different terms. They were on a peaceful rise. They were working together. Yes, she did something unethical and illegal. She just wanted to make money and take advantage of the situation, which a lot of people do. But now her story has been twisted into something more. I think it's so important for us to understand what's happening to US and China in the news, because what's happening there is going to in fact impact us. And if we don't understand what our fears, what legitimate concerns there are, we won't be able to make the proper actions. So I really want to encourage everyone to really understand what's happening between US and China. And is there a wrong here? Can we ask the US and Chinese government to go towards peace instead of pushing each other as they try to fight and remain number one at the cost of all of us? And I truly don't understand everything that's going on, but I think it's so great if we can have more dialogue on these types of issues. I love to think about what is happening in our world so that we can make sense of it and maybe come up with solutions. If you'd like to be part of this, I'd love if you could subscribe to my channel. And if you're able, feel free to buy me a coffee to support my work. I have the link in the comments below.